These days, the developments regarding voting rights are coming so quickly at the state and national level, it's hard to keep up. A lot of that's been happening in court, and we just had a major decision here in New Hampshire on Friday. But there's also landmark legislation in Washington under consideration. Here this morning to discuss, Lucas Meyer, former president of the New Hampshire Young Democrats, who now works to try to expand access to voting, and Representative Ross Berry, a Republican from Manchester, who serves on the Election Law Committee and the Special Committee on Redistricting. Let's start with the SB 3 ruling coming out of the Supreme Court, the 2017 law, which requires people to register to vote, register to vote within 30 days of an election to provide clear documentation that they are residents of the state. This was struck down in its entirety. Lucas, what's your reaction?
Look, I think this is great news for our democracy, for voters in New Hampshire. This has been a long fight, but we knew from the moment this bill was introduced that it was unconstitutional, that it weakened our democracy, that it made it harder to vote. So we're thrilled that the Supreme Court agreed with the Superior Court that this bill was in fact unconstitutional, placed an undue burden on voters, and was completely needless for our elections. And this really emphasizes the need, now more than ever, with our democracy in crisis, that we need to pass H.R. 1. We need to pass the For the People Act. We need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to make sure that for young people like myself and like Representative Berry, that our future is protected, that the voice of the people is respected in government and in the decisions that are made. So while this is a win for our democracy and for voters, the battle rages on. So, you know, we take the W this morning, but we get back to work this afternoon.
Representative Berry, Republicans argued that the requirements in SB 3 were not overly burdensome. The Supreme Court sees it differently. What's your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is obviously a disappointing decision today, and it's nice that Lucas puts his spin on it. But I think people in New Hampshire need to know what our voting laws actually are, which is we are a state that requires no proof of identity, no proof of domicile or residency, and we have no durational requirement, which means that anybody who is here for even 30 seconds can legally vote here. Republicans obviously see a problem with this. It leaves the door wide open for theories that aren't always true. And I think the court got this one wrong. And if you look at the bottom of the decision, I haven't had the ability to read the full decision yet, but if you look at their decision, it actually flies in face with what the U.S. Supreme Court decided yesterday in the Arizona case, because the New Hampshire Supreme Court said that the state does not have a compelling interest to protect voter integrity, and the U.S. Supreme Court said actually the opposite. The state does have a compelling interest. So I wish the Supreme Court had waited. Our Supreme Court had waited a couple of days to see what the U.S. Supreme Court says, but you know that's how court cases go. I'm sure Mr. Myers is not excited about the Arizona case, just like I'm not excited about the New Hampshire case.
Ross, following up with you there, does this change the calculus at all for what goes on in the legislature, how you approach this issue?
Well, yeah, I mean, voter integrity issues are going to continue to be a top priority of the Republican Party. But I want to be very clear about something, Adam. You know, we get attacks on us all the time that we're trying to suppress the vote, and it's simply not true. I want as many people to be able to legally vote as possible. I just want to be able to have a system that people can have faith in. So we're obviously going to look at this. We haven't had a chance to talk about it, but I'm sure there will be a response to this in the legislature. But, you know, going back to it, I think the court's got this one wrong. I think we already have incredibly loose and open election laws, and that the requirements in SB 3 were beyond reasonable. You could still vote and register to vote on Election Day in New Hampshire under SB 3 while presenting no ID and no proof of domicile. You just had to come back within 2 weeks and say, hey, yeah, I do actually live here.
Lucas, do you think this changes the fundamentals of the debate at all at the State House?
Look, I think what Representative Berry just said gets to the root of the problem. We have politicians in office who continue to use fear tactics and lies to justify these bills, which now 2 courts have ruled as unconstitutional. Representative Berry says the Republican Party isn't trying to suppress the vote. 2 courts just said, in fact, they are. So I think we need to shift the paradigm. We need to focus on something that I believe is patriotic as we head into the 4th of July weekend. That we should be focusing on how do we build a stronger democracy? How do we get as many people to vote as possible? There are all these fear tactics about we have the loosest election laws in the state, that anyone can show up and vote day of. Representative Berry knows that there are laws in place to protect our elections. There is no rampant voter fraud in the state. They are putting out solutions in search of a problem that doesn't exist. The problem that exists is that we do not have full participation in our elections, right? That we should be striving for the ideal that we have not reached yet in this country, which is entirely free and fair elections, which every American, regardless of their background, regardless of their zip code, regardless of their color, regardless of their age, are able to freely participate in our democracy. And I hope that the Republican Party can come to this realization that our democracy is fundamentally at risk.
Representative Berry,
I fundamentally believe we need to pass H.R. 1.
We'll give you time for a response there, Representative Berry.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that. You know, Mr. Myers, if the Republican Party in New Hampshire was interested in suppressing the vote, why did we just make it easier for people who are in jail to vote? Why did we just approve electronic poll books, which will reduce lines in Election Day, which make it easier to have access to the ballot? It has never been a priority of ours to try and suppress the vote. I, like you, want as many people to vote as possible, but a difference between what you just said and what I say is I want as many people to vote as legally as possible who actually live here. So, you know, you say these things, but there's all these sort of data about the qualified voter affidavits, the qualified domicile affidavits. When the Secretary of State did a report in 2016, almost 1 out of 5 of the ones they investigated for the qualified domicile affidavit came back. They didn't know who these people were. So, like, I have never once said that there's rampant voter fraud in New Hampshire. What I have said is we have an incredibly loose election law process. And as I said at the beginning of this segment, in New Hampshire, and Granite Staters need to know this, there is no requirement that you show an ID at a ballot box. There is no requirement that when you're registering on Election Day that you show any form of ID. And there is no requirement that when you're registering on Election Day, you show any proof you actually live where you say you live. That is our current law. And I don't know how that's not loose enough for Mr. Myers, but I tell people in other states when I describe our election law process, they think I'm making it up. They think it's so absurd. They said no state could ever have election laws like this that are so wide open for abuse. And I would hope that even Mr. Myers would agree. We can disagree on whether or not there is abuse, but we cannot disagree that the current system is wide open for abuse.
Well, Lucas, I know Democrats want change to come from Washington. I'm just curious what you think is so wrong with New Hampshire elections that it needs to be solved by something like the For the People Act or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act from D.C.
This is an entire mischaracterization of the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. This was the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act a federal takeover of elections. This is about ensuring, regardless of where you're from or who you are, that you have the right to vote. I think that's important. At the end of the day, when the For the People Act passes, our local moderators and supervisors of the checklists are still in charge of our elections. And Representative Berry referenced some of the few bills that did pass this session, but what he neglects to tell you is that while we did pass the electronic poll books, which took too long of a time to get done, and in that vote, Representative Berry said, of course I support modernizing elections. The next vote he took was to strip a Republican-sponsored online voter registration bill and to kill it. A majority of states have online voter registration, automatic voter registration. The reforms that we are proposing in this state that Republicans have supported and provisions that are contained in H.R. 1 are widely popular and allow people to participate in our elections. The fear here is that too many people take part in our elections. I think that is the root of the Republican opposition to these bills, is they don't want universal folks participating in our elections. Why else did we roll back our absentee ballots? We just had what Secretary Gardner, our governor, Republicans and Democrats all agreed was a resounding success of an election, in part because we had basically universal access to absentee ballots. Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians all took advantage of that. And we had record turnout in this state. I think that should be celebrated, and I think we should make that permanent.
Well, Ross, you're opposed to the For the People Act and any of these Washington laws being passed, changing the election system here in New Hampshire. The legislature did pass a law that would essentially bifurcate New Hampshire's election system. It obviously still has to pass muster with Governor Sununu, but why is that move appropriate to really just create a completely different election system than the one we have now in response to that?
Well, I have to give you some pushback on that, Adam. The law didn't specify how we would basically maintain control of our own elections, because that's something that Mr. Myers just said that's factually inaccurate. The fact is that the For the People Act would take over New Hampshire elections. It would tell us how we have to conduct our elections. And I said at the time, I think Secretary Gardner should be running New Hampshire's elections, not Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. I do want to address something about the online registration vote, because once again, these are the tricks that the left likes to play, right? They're trying to implement the Motor Voter Act, which New Hampshire has a waiver to, but they want all the stuff that they like, but none of the stuff that we like. So I'm all about it. If we want to introduce Motor Voter, we want to do online registration, go and register a vote at the DMV, I'm all for that, but we're going to get the things that come with it. Like, we're going to have a residency requirement, and we're going to actually check voter ID. So these are the things that I support, that I think most people in New Hampshire support, but I'm not going to let them backdoor stuff and then take votes and try to mischaracterize them, because that's what politics has all been about these days, and that's why we have these messed up laws that we do. But let's go back to the For the People Act real quick, Adam. There's things in there that are extremely unpopular. A complete banning of actual voter ID, and I know that Lucas is about to say, but Ross, we already do that in New Hampshire. But I've told you, we don't have actual voter ID in New Hampshire, even though 72% of the New Hampshire electorate wants it, including, by the way, Lucas, 53% of Democrats. So there's things in there that is extremely unpopular. The For the People Act, or as I like to refer to it as the For the Politicians Act, because it has taxpayer-funded campaigns. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to love their tax dollars going to fund ultra liberals or ultra conservatives in other states. I'm sure they're really excited about that. But there's a lot of things in this law that people didn't like. Thankfully, the For the Politicians Act is dead on arrival. It's already done, and we move on. But this is what we deal with now. People compare things. They make false comparisons for laws that have nothing to do with today, and it's just mind-blowing that we have to sit there and just pile on. But the reality is, I go back to it, the Republican Party's position is the same. It's always been the same. We want as many people who actually live in New Hampshire to vote here, and we want to make it as easy as possible, but we have to balance that. It's a balancing act between that and people having faith in the outcome of our elections.
Lucas, we got about 30 seconds left. I'll give you the last word here.
Well, there he goes again, spreading more lies of voter fraud, right? It's in every talking point.
I never said voter fraud, Lucas. The words never came out of my mouth.
Excuse me, to undermine faith in our democracy. This is the challenge we are facing. Politicians using lies of voter fraud to justify restrictive voting measures. The For the People Act is a historic piece of legislation that will root out corruption, stop billionaires from buying our elections, provide our local election officials with funding to modernize and make our elections more accessible. And I think, and I know, a majority of Americans and Granite Staters support that.
All right, Lucas Meyer and Representative Ross Berry, a spirited discussion. We'll have to continue at another time, gentlemen. We appreciate your time here on Close Up.
Thank you.